This house has officially been marked for condemnation.
With his own hands, you're not taking it.
You'll be gone before the month is over.
She thought I would surrender. She had no idea what she had just started.
This property is a danger to our entire community.
No.
My husband built that house.
And you should be ashamed of yourself.
My mother still remembers the garden even when she forgets my name. On her good days, she shuffles out to the tomato beds in her house dress and gardening gloves, and talks to the plants the way she always has. On her bad days, she asks me when her son is coming home, and I tell her soon, and make her tea and sit beside her until the confusion passes. Caring for a parent with dementia teaches you patience, deeper than anything else in this world. It did not prepare me for Vivian Cross. My name is Marcus Webb, 54 years old, retired firefighter. I moved back into my childhood home 3 years ago when Mom's dementia reached the point where she couldn't safely live alone. The house has been in our family since 1952. My father built the back porch with his own hands. The garden Mom tends on her good days has been producing tomatoes since before I was born. Vivian Cross had been HOA president at Maplewood Estates for 7 years. The subdivision had grown up around our property in the 1990s, while my parents lived quietly and minded their own business. Pearl white SUV, HOI badge, worn on weekdays like a sheriff's star. A husband on the City Planning Commission, whose fingerprints were on every major development decision in the county for a decade. She showed up the morning after I filed a noise complaint about construction equipment starting at 5:30 in the morning directly behind our property line, heels on gravel. Clipboard, pressed to her chest like scripture. "Your property has been flagged for structural inspection," she said. "We have concerns about blight conditions affecting community property values. The house my father built in 1952 had passed every legitimate inspection for 70 years. Inspector Victor Reyes arrived the following Tuesday with a clipboard that already had boxes checked before he walked through the door. He photographed the foundation from 20 feet away, never entered the basement, never checked the roof from above. Spent 11 minutes total before announcing preliminary findings consistent with condemnation risk. My security cameras caught every minute of it. I drove to the county courthouse that afternoon. 3 hours in the basement with property records that smelled like the 1950s. And I found something Vivian had never bothered to check. My father's 1952 deed contained an agricultural easement, a legal agreement with the county granting him permanent access rights over the service road running along the eastern property boundary in exchange for maintaining it as emergency vehicle access. That road was the only way in or out of Maplewood Estates. Every building permit for the subdivision had required county certification that emergency vehicle access was maintained through that agricultural easement. The easement holder had to be notified of any development affecting the road. My family had never been notified of anything. Every permit issued for Vivian's neighborhood for 30 years had been approved using an easement that legally required our consent. Victor called me the following Thursday. Quiet voice. Said he needed to talk. We met at a diner 3 towns over, and he slid a folder across the table with shaking hands. Inside were the original inspection reports in his handwriting, unsigned, every box empty. Beside them were the submitted versions with his forged signature, and every box checked, Condemn. Vivian had been forging his signature on condemnation notices for 2 years. Victor had discovered it when a property owner in another neighborhood challenged an inspection he had no memory of conducting. My attorney filed that afternoon. Emergency injunction, forged government documents, fraudulent condemnation proceedings, easement violations spanning 3 decades, husband's planning commission conflicts of interest. At the emergency HOA meeting, Vivian called to address the dangerous property threatening community safety. She had barely begun her presentation when Victor walked in with a county investigator and the original unsigned reports. Then Mom shuffled through the community center door in her house dress and gardening gloves. She looked at Vivian with the particular clarity that sometimes cuts through the fog. "I know what you're trying to do to my son's house," she said, loud enough for every person in that room to hear. "My husband built that house. I raised my children in that house. And you ought to be ashamed of yourself." The room gave her a standing ovation. Vivian received 3 years for document forgery and fraud. Her husband lost his planning commission seat and his contractor's license. Full restitution. Every fabricated fine voided. Victor kept his inspector's license after cooperating fully with investigators. The access road remains in our family's name. Mom had a good day last week. She brought the woman next door a jar of tomato sauce from the garden and introduced herself like they'd never met before. The neighbor accepted the jar and told her it was the most beautiful thing anyone had given her in years. Mom smiled all the way home. Some things hold even when everything else slips away. The garden, the house, the things worth coming home to protect.